What's up, everybody? Welcome to the stream. Oh, yeah. It's good to be... What? Chat disconnected. What do you mean chat disconnected? Oh, it's back. Okay, good. Oh, I know the music stopped. I'm the one making the music happen. Whew. Yeah, sometimes I do get so into dancing that I'm at risk of just dancing through the end of the song and missing it. So it's realistic. It's realistic to ask that question. But here we are. And I'm glad to be here with you to answer some questions. And we are going to answer your questions. In fact, let's just get right into answering your questions. And we'll talk a little bit more about the stream in just a second. I love this question. How ready to go are bind and fly quads? Do they typically require tinkering around in Betaflight to get them to work? Yes, they do require tinkering around in Betaflight to get them to work. You get a bind and fly. You know, back in the day when you had bind and fly planes, you would get the plane. The plane would come with the receiver pre-installed, and there wasn't a flight controller. So you would just bind it to your receiver. And then it was still a little bit of a misnomer to call it a bind and fly, because you would bind it to your receiver, but you would still want to check your channel mapping. You would want to check your server, your endpoints and so forth. There's still some basic checks you needed to do, but especially if you were buying bind and flies, you had a Spectrum radio, you're buying a Spectrum or a Horizon Hobby bind and fly. They were made to work together. It was pretty much just bind it and go take off and fly. With multi-rotors, it's not that simple. And the reason is that there's a whole lot more variables, right? It's not like you have a Spectrum radio, you have a Horizon Hobby plane, and they're made to work together. You just bind it and fly it, and you're good to go. Like if you buy, and I know some people out there hate it when I say anything nice about Rotor Riot, but there you go. I'm going to be me. If you buy one of Rotor Riot's pre-builds and they send it to you with a controller, they know how the controller is set up. And if you buy another pre-build from them, it will be set up the same as your controller, and you can literally just bind it and fly it. But when you buy a bind and fly from iFlight, iFlight has no idea how your controller is set up, right? What's your channel mapping? What's your all the variables? How are your aux modes set up, right? Airplanes don't have aux modes. So because there's all these variables that the manufacturer can't possibly know about, you have to work that stuff out when you get a bind and fly. It's not truly just bind and fly. Bind and fly basically means it's completely assembled with a receiver installed, and you have to bind it and then finish the basic setup, and then you can fly it. What I want to do, if you're curious to hear more about this, is when's the last time I did a setup on a bind and fly? What if I just search for the word setup? No. I have to go back further. Like, you can see what I had to do. Yeah, here we go. Flywoo FlyLens 85 Betaflight setup. So this video, Flywoo FlyLens 85 Betaflight setup. This right here is the flywheel. If you go to this video, you can see all of the things that I did between getting this bind and fly and actually taking it out and flying it. Okay? When it's an 18-minute video, so it goes faster when I'm not making a video. It's probably, for me, it's about 10 minutes of dicking around and then I can fly it, you know. But yeah, there's always going to be some dicking around unless you buy a completely, like, truly ready-to-fly model. And that's what we do here. You ask questions, I answer the questions. We'll do that for about 2 hours. You can ask the questions here in the YouTube chat. If you're a patron, you can ask the questions here in the Discord server. Yeah. And if you want to show your support, you can hit the $ down here and leave a super chat. And I read almost all of those super chats during the stream. We'll start reading those super chats in 15 minutes or so. And I do want to apologize. Yesterday afternoon, at the very end of the stream, someone left a super chat right as I was signing off, and I didn't read it. And then later, I looked back at the chat window, and they were like, well, you know, it's okay, but he kind of was hoping I would read it. And so I apologize, first of all. And number two, it was kind of a throwaway comment. You agree it was a kind of a throwaway. It wasn't really a question. But you still wanted it read. That's why you left a super chat. And, excuse me. I just have to say that's a risk of leaving a super chat right at the end of the stream, is I'll already have signed off by the time it comes through, and, you know, what can I do? So, anyway. But I apologize for that. All right. What happened to the Tyrannus radio? We don't hear a lot about them anymore. Yeah, well, FrSky stopped making radios for FPV pilots. FrSky used to be like the open source people's champion, and then they kind of got popular, and then they kind of got proprietary. They stopped supporting OpenTX, and they built their own operating system called EthOS. They didn't really buy into ExpressLRS. As ExpressLRS got more and more popular, they developed their own sort of parallel version of a long-range protocol. And the FPV community, well, I want to say the FPV community has always been about sort of that open source, you know, for the people ethos. There's truth to that, although, like, the popularity of DJI proves that if a product is good enough, people will be happy to get in that gilded cage, close the door, lock, and throw away the key. So I guess the takeaway is that FrSky tried to build a closed ecosystem, and it wasn't compelling enough, and FPV pilots were just like, fine, good luck, go over there. And I think it worked out for FrSky, because as near as I can tell, they were courting the fixed wing traditional RC flyers who are willing to pay a lot more for a radio just because they've been conditioned to do it because they're all old. And back in the day when they were learning, I'm going to piss off so many people. Back in the day when all those old fogies flying airplanes, losers, when they were coming up, you had to pay $800 for a Futaba radio, and it had 8 channels. Whoa! And for $1,200, you could get 10 channels. Whoa! Whoa! And then, you know, my first radio was a $60. Oh gosh, it was like a $60 Chinese radio. I can't remember the model. It was a 9X. Turnigy 9X, a $60 Turnigy 9X. And it could do everything because software is cheap and processors are cheap. And that was a recent development. But all the old guys flying fixed wings still expect to pay $800 for a transmitter. And so obviously transmitter manufacturers want to go over, and of course they look at OpenTX and EdgeTX and they're like, what is this? This is like somebody compared an EdgeTX to like a TI-85 graphing calculator. All I want to do is fly my planes. I don't want to learn how to program. Okay, well, here you go, Grandpa. Here's $800 for your Spectrum radio. Go have a good time. I will. Punk. So that's the market that FrSky is going after now. More power to them, but they're just not they kind of left the FPV market behind, and the FPV market said good riddance, and they went to Jumper, and they went to Radio Master, and that's where they are. I want to say, I hope that everyone has a sense of humor about me calling fixed wing flyers old farts and so forth. That was a little bit of a comedy routine, and no one should take it too seriously. And if you're pissed off now, then take a deep breath because, okay. Excuse me. Thanks for all you do, says Tyler Warnke. Thoughts on HD0 for medium to long range flying, or just focus on DJI units for range? HD0 with the right antennas will outrange a DJI unit, at least the Vista, which capped at 13 kilometers. HD0 doesn't have any hard maximum range cap. Now, the output power of the video transmitter is going to be a limiting factor, but people have taken HD. I don't know what the current range limit for HD0 is, but it's farther than the range limit for DJI, at least the O3 and the Vista. The other thing about DJI is that with DJI, especially with the Goggles 3 and the Integra, where you don't have removable antennas, once you hit the range limit, there's not a lot you can do to get more range out of it. You can't really, put higher gain antennas on, not very easily, not without opening up the goggles. So there's an argument that HD0 is better for long range, although I gotta say, I would argue that if you're truly trying to do long range, the HD0 Freestyle caps out at 1 watt. But I can buy a 5 watt analog VTX. I can buy a 10 watt analog VTX. So if I really want to do long range, why not just do analog? Right? Yeah, okay, HD0 has ultra low latency. Oh yeah, when I'm flying at 1,500 feet, on autopilot with altitude hold and cruise control, I really give a shit about latency. I don't. Well, it has better image quality. Yeah, but again, if I'm doing long range, so I think there's an argument that HD0 beats DJI for long. If you're going out more than say 10 or 15 kilometers, which most I've seen, I think that's pretty achievable for DJI. Then HD0 might make sense, but at that point, maybe analog just makes more sense. So, can ELRS dynamically change packet rate as distance increases? No, it doesn't do that. That's a Crossfire thing, and it's cool that Crossfire does it, although it's worth pointing out that if you have dynamic packet rate on with Crossfire, you get 200 or 300 feet, maybe a little more, on the 150 hertz, and then it immediately switches to 50 hertz, and then that's just it. So you don't get a ton of range off it. ELRS could do a little better because it has a larger variety of modulations, but switching packet rate in midair is actually very complicated to do. And it's kind of amazing that TBS pulled it off. It's actually one of those things that they made it look so easy and seamless that it hides just how hard it really is. Because think about it. We're going to switch packet rate. And that means that for just a fraction of a second, we're going to break our connection. We have to hop at the same time. So we're going through this hopping sequence, and I say to you, let's switch to a different packet rate. Okay, here I go, and I switch to a different packet rate. Well, do you see that if you don't switch with me, now we fail-safe the link. And there may be ways to oh crap, something didn't go right, let's reconnect. But the whole time we're trying to do that, the link is fail-safed. And the fact that TBS can switch from 50 to 150 hertz back and forth and not fail-safe the link in any noticeable way is kind of remarkable. I suspect that the ELRS devs could do it if they wanted to, because they're also smart cookies, and I bet they understand, how to solve some of those problems. But it's actually not as trivial to do. And there's an argument that it messes up other things like the filtering of the RC input and so forth when you change packet rates. And so the idea is just set the packet rate that you want and just leave it. And that's what ExpressLRS does. Gadget RC says, sometimes I power up my HDO2s and the rapid fire module doesn't power up. Look for bad connections, but no luck. Is it likely the goggles or the module? I'm going to guess that it is the socket that the module plugs into. It's just a guess, but I would guess that if you wiggle it, it'll come back on. I don't know though. If you really suspect it, unplug the module, plug in, like stick up like a piece of wire in the socket, or open the goggles up and probe the back of the socket with a multimeter and see if it's putting out 5 volts. And then that's how you'll know. But my guess is that it's the socket that the module plugs into. If you suspect the module, you could always just buy another module and see what happens. Eric Toft reminds me that the HDO2s have an RX module switch, that there is a switch on the underside of the goggles that switches the module on and off. I had forgotten about that. That is true. And if that switch is off, then the module won't power up. And it was a common thing way back in the day when HDO2s were way more popular for people to be like, my goggles are broken, my module doesn't power up. And we'd be like, flip the switch. It's been a long time. Thank you for the reminder, Eric Toft. Smoker X wants to know, when it comes to ready-to-fly kits with radio and goggles, are those goggles and radio generally able to be used with other systems? Yes, they're typically just standard analog goggles. They're not great goggles. Like, you're not going to get a ton of range off of them, but they will work with other 5.8 gigahertz analog video transmitters. And radio, usually these days the radio is usually Express LRS, and it is probably usable with other systems as well.
Yeah, just so you know, there's a common issue with these Express LRS radios that come with these kits. That, like, a lot of them are very cheap radios without updatable Express LRS, or it'll only be one version, or you won't be able to set a binding phrase, so you have to manually bind each time. Like, there's little weird caveats that happen with these radios, but that's sort of the what you're paying for. And that's sort of why I think we mentioned Rotor Riot, but that's why you mentioned Rotor Riot earlier, because they do full radios with real kits instead of like some of the RTF kits that you see from other companies that are small, cheaper radios, which can be fine in certain situations, but like you said, using in the future can have caveats. Yeah.
I really think Rotor Riot fills a niche in the FPV community, and it's not a niche. The FPV community is full of nerds who have figured out how to do it themselves and resent anybody who makes life easier for beginners. I'm on fire tonight. I'm in a mood. I'm in the mood to piss people off. The FPV community is full of people who struggled to get into FPV and now think everyone else should struggle too. And like, if you look at the bind and fly kits that Rotor Riot sells, it's like a Radio Master Pocket, a Whoop Store charger. It's like real stuff, you know? It's not like crappy. If you look at an Emax bind and fly or a Beta FPV bind and fly kit, the controller is really crappy, and they do that to get the price down. Okay, fair. You know, that's right for somebody. Rotor Riot sells the real shit, and they mark it up because they hand build it in Orlando, and that takes, that costs money. But I think I think that there's plenty of people out. The fact that they're still in business is evidence that there's plenty of people out there who think that it's the right money to spend. So, almost ready to do the super chats. Almost ready to do the super chats. Gray FPV. I soldered a 5-volt and a ground pin to my drone all in one. Nothing's touching, but the AI won't connect to Betaflight, and I can't get video signal. Gray, I don't understand what you mean by I soldered a 5-volt and ground pin. I can't parse that really. But I would say if you soldered something to your drone and now it won't power up, desolder the things you soldered and see if it goes back to working. You say nothing's touching, nothing's shorting, test with a multimeter to see. But like, you soldered on it, now it doesn't work. You either, something about your soldering screwed it up, or you damaged it while you're soldering. First thing to do is to desolder the things you soldered and then go from there. Chris M. thinks all pilots should have to build their own quad first before purchasing a bind and fly. Chris, I'm going to argue with you just because I'm feeling argumentative tonight. I agree with you, but also I see the other side. And the other side of it is that there are people out there who will be so frustrated by the building that they'll quit. And some people will be like, well, screw them. They washed out. They don't get to be a part of FPV. I don't feel that way. I think that there's a place in the world for people to buy a bind and fly, start to enjoy flying the bind and fly and really find the love of the hobby, and then dip their toe in the building water now that they're truly hooked and truly motivated, right? It's like if you're not gonna like get a taste of what really hooks you, you may not make it through the building, right? But once you're hooked, maybe that'll be the motivation you need to learn how to build. So, because building is a giant pain in the ass. And it's almost unfair to say to somebody, you have to go through this giant pain in the ass without ever actually knowing what's on the other side. Let me give you a taste of what's on the other side. And if the answer to you is to spend $300 or $500 on a bind and fly that you're going to break, you're going to need to fix it. You're going to have to learn to build eventually. You can't really short circuit that. I think that's valid. Foster Ogden says, if for whatever reason we were to stop receiving drone parts from China, what's the best American-made FPV, VTX, and goggles brand to buy from? American-made, Foster? Define American-made. Fat Shark is Fat Shark is a nominally American company. It's owned by Unusual Machines, which is an American corporation. Guess where the goggles are made? China. DJI, Chinese company, made in China. Skyzone, Chinese company, made in China. Orca, Croatian company, made in Croatia. Not the U.S., but not China, so that's something. They're just really... First of all, there aren't that many manufacturers of FPV goggles, full stop. Most of them manufacture in China, except for Orca, manufactures in Croatia. There you go. So VTX and goggles, the closest you're going to get is Orca. Orca is their stuff, their NDAA stuff. It's super expensive, but there you go. You're going to see more American manufacturing in the years to come. And the motivation for that is that the government and the military want to bring supply chains back to the United States because they are uncomfortable with the idea that operationally relevant hardware is dependent on China. It's kind of like an impossible situation because you bring the manufacturing to the United States, but you still buy the chips from China. There are things that you can only get from China in any reasonable way, but there's a desire to move that domestic as much as possible. So we see things like the Rotor Brave flight controller and ESC, which are manufactured in the U.S. from Chinese components, or some Chinese components, I assume. But they're manufactured in the United States, and that is useful in some ways to the people who are interested in that sort of thing. I don't know of anybody who's doing an FPV goggle that way, but I expect that someone will, maybe Fat Shark, before too long. Anyway. All right. Let's do super chats. We're going to start doing super chats. We got about 10 super chats. We'll, if you want to get your question answered promptly, then now's the time to leave a super chat. And I'm going to we usually do like a half hour, 45 minutes of super chats before I get through all of them. So leave a super chat if you would like to get your question answered promptly. Richard Baggins, thank you for a $5 super chat. So the GX12, nice build, little crowded, beta firmware, no Bluetooth head tracker support. Thoughts? I bit the bullet and committed to making the GX12 my daily driver. I may still go back to the Boxer, but I'm doing like, Linus Tech Tips did the 30-day challenge where he used iOS for 30 days. I'm like truly eating this dog food, as the saying goes. And so far, the switches take a little getting used to, right? Like I really wish this radio had a switch up here that because I could easily get that while I'm flying. Whereas these switches back here are harder to get while I'm flying, but I make it work. The gimbals I've gotten used to. The gimbals have a little bit different feel. than the AGO ones, but they're, that's not what makes me a good or a bad flyer for sure. I really like the small form factor. It fits nicely in my backpack. Leaves a lot of room for other things. No Bluetooth head tracker. I don't do a lot of head tracking, but I honestly wasn't even aware the other radios had a Bluetooth head tracker, but obviously that's a big deal to some people. And when I want to do head tracking, I just plug the cable in. Folding antennas. I like the antennas. I like, again, because it's easy to put it in a backpack. I do kind of wonder if I'm not seeing as much range as I would like to see with these antennas, but I'm not motivated enough to put an external antenna on here. So, yeah, I think I'm really happy with this radio so far. I really like the programmable switches, that the 6-position switches are programmable. Like on my iNav plane, this is the nav, right? And this is auto launch, right? These are things that like if I need to go into a waypoint mission, well, I'm going to put it into, I'm either going to activate the waypoint mission before I launch, or I'm going to put it into loiter, and then I'm going to activate the waypoint mission. So I use these for switches that I can push, that I don't have to be under goggles. Yeah. So. Stick throw of the GX12 and the Boxer. I think it's pretty similar. The gimbals are very similar in size. They just have a little bit of a different feel. Oh, Bluetooth head tracker is wireless trainer. Yeah, same thing. Yeah. Thanks for your videos and the Discord. Been a huge help getting into the hobby. Thank you, It's Buka, for a $10 super chat. Thank you, Color123, for a $10 super chat. I'm considering purchasing a Nazgul Evoke F5, Squash Decks, or a 2RAW Spectre 7. I've been flying the DJI FPV for 2 years. I want a good-looking but extremely fast drone. Which do you recommend? 2RAW Spectre 7. Which is going to be faster? 7-inch has the potential to be faster than 5-inch because the bigger props make more thrust. But 7-inch also has the potential to be a slow cruiser. Let's look at the Spectre 7. Let's see how it is spec'd out. Oh, that doesn't look like a speed demon to me. That looks like a, I don't know. Yeah, that looks like a cinema rig. Let's see. What's the spec on the motors? No. 1400 kV. Those are 1400 kV motors. So for a really fast 7-inch, you're going to want like 1700 kV or something. That's going to be more of a cruiser. I don't know. It might have a higher top speed. Don't do that. It might have a higher top speed than the 5-inch. I'm not sure. But like this frame layout is not meant to be a speed demon that crashes ever. It's going to explode if you crash it. This is a cinema rig. I would steer you away from this based on what you're describing. Good looking, but fast. I think I would get the Evoke F5, and you'd probably be happy with that. This is a pretty specific aircraft. Can you get to the bottom of what happened to FPV Lux? I keep getting charged, but I haven't seen a package in a while. Wow, Steven Drakes. Well, I don't know what happened to FPV Lux. I thought they, like so many subscription boxes, were losing money and stopped. I don't know why you keep getting charged. I thought they went out of business. Did they?
Dahari in the chat said somebody else bought them out, but they haven't shipped in a while. I've heard from many other people that they have not been shipping, but they've been taking people's money for months now. So,
God,
I would cancel that.
Yeah, cancel it for sure. I mean, that sucks. Like, I would file a dispute with my credit card, 100%. Yeah, no. First of all, cancel the payment. Second of all, file a dispute with your credit card to get your money back because yeah. F that. That sucks. You can cancel anytime, even though we wouldn't want you to. Yeah, subscription boxes are real effing hard to make money on in the FPV world. I love FPV. I did everything cliche newbie moves like buying FrSky, Quad City Bay Area. Hey, we all been there, man. Thank you for $5. Thank you for $5 from Iced Omega 13. Thanks for all the knowledge you provide to the community. I just built my first whoop with the help of your videos. Thank you so much. I'm sorry that you live in Huntsville, Alabama, though. No offense. Well, I'm on it tonight, Blunty. Blunty, how's Huntsville rank in terms of cities in Alabama?
Pretty high up there, I think. I think they have like rocket program stuff there.
True.
Like NASA.
True.
So yeah, I think it's pretty up there. But it depends on what you're ranking it on. You know.
Right.
Like,
yeah. I don't know. What do you think is the? Obviously, you live where you live because this is where your family's from. But like, if you had to pick one city in Alabama to settle in, setting aside the fact that your family is from, where would it be?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't pick a city in Alabama if I'm picking a city, but
you have to pick a city in Alabama. It's going to be coastal, right? Because you like the water.
Yeah, but Mobile is like not a place.
Right? I knew it. I knew it.
I don't know, man. I guess Montgomery or something, but like I don't know. Birmingham's closer to Atlanta, so there's somewhere to go.
Yeah, I've been to Birmingham. I did the drive to Birmingham. We did a job at the Birmingham airport. There was this hangar at the Birmingham airport, and we were putting wireless network bridging. They wanted Wi-Fi in the hangars, and then we had wireless bridges between the hangars, and we had all these problems. And I was driving back. We finished the weekend, and we had to leave town, go back home. And I was like, well, we'll come back out next weekend. And we did. And I was out there like 3 weekends in a row before we finally rented a spectrum analyzer. This was back in the day. This was 15, 20 years ago. Yeah, that hurts. And you couldn't just like buy a $200 spectrum analyzer from China and look. You had to rent one. And finally we rented a spectrum analyzer, and there was just gobs of noise all over the 5 gigahertz spectrum. And what made it complicated was that the cabling contractor we hired had fucked up the Ethernet cables. I don't know if some of you guys know how to wire an Ethernet cable, and you're supposed to cross 2 of the pairs. And he had wired all the Ethernet cables straight through as if they were phone wires. So they had a ton of corruption. And by the time we discovered that, and I held the wires up and I was like, this is how you're supposed to do it. And he was like, well, that's how I've always done it. And I was like, well, you're not making your case, buddy. You're making it worse. So he had to go back and fix all the wires, and we thought that was the problem. Then it wasn't the problem. There was electrical. And finally, we took all the equipment off the building, and we told the customer, sorry for wasting your time, and we literally just walked away from the contract. And I don't know how much money my company lost on that, but it was just a total waste of time. And that's whenever I think of Birmingham, I think of that job, and I cringe. Anyway, good times. Yeah. Well done, Black Jungle. Well done, sir. Oh, no, this one. Yeah, good job. I like the memes. Oh. I've got a 5 free eyes super chat from Black Jungle. Thoughts on the GEPRC Turn LR40 frame? The Turn LR40 frame. All of these frames kind of go back to the Flywoo. Well, not the Flywoo Explorer, but Flywoo didn't invent it. What's the guy's name who first invented the Explorer? Oh, no, I'm blanking. Help me out, chat. So this idea is that you build an ultralight 4-inch, and then you get long flight time. And it's a little weird. Like, people, Dave C., thank you very much, Space Gadget. Dave C. is the guy who originally did the Explorer. So credit to Dave C. His idea was that you build this ultralight 4-inch and you get really long flight time. And it's a clever idea, but I don't know how I feel about it, because like the durability on the frame goes to crap because it's so light. Well, okay, you're not supposed to crash it. It's a long range. Okay, fair enough. They do fly for like 20, 30 minutes, depending on the battery. You get a lot of flight time. They're pretty small, though, and they don't deal with the wind well. So it's really a very specific type of long-range flying. They're kind of cool, though. I think we've gotten away from the ultra lightweight. As you look at this one, it's got the O3. So I wonder how much it weighs compared to the original Explorer. It looks fine. GetRC makes a good quad, and if you're looking for a 4-inch in this category, it's probably a fine choice. I don't have a lot of specific thoughts about it. My biggest, I like that the GPS is mounted up high. That's good. I'd be even happier if the GPS had foil around its wires. I think it doesn't. I think we can see the GPS wires here. It'd be nice if they were foil covered. Unfortunately, they're not. That would help. It looks like a fine little build if you're looking for a 4-inch long range, and that is a fun category. Just don't try to freestyle it because they don't crash well. The Radiomaster Zorro could have been the greatest radio, but loose tension. Fair enough. I think the Zorro is mostly hampered by its battery life. Tropical Ding Dong, thank you for a $2 super chat. What FPV drone software should I get to train on? If you mean a simulator, I like Liftoff. I also like the Trip simulator. They both have my house in them, so that's nice. Velocidrone is, I think, the leading candidate for racing. Yeah, there's a lot of good choices. So China is more smart than U.S. scientist. Not touching that comment with a 10-foot pole. I don't remember what the context is for that comment, and I'm not interested in diving deeper. Thank you for $2. Aqua Sakura, thank you for $3. Can you compare the stick throw of the GX12 to the Boxer? All right, fine. If you're going to give me a super chat, I guess I got to actually go get my Boxer and compare the stick throw. Fine. It's the same. It's like literally the same. The stick ends, I see. The stick ends on the GX12 are a little smaller. It kind of makes the gimbal feel smaller, but I don't think it is. It might be a tiny bit smaller. Let me get my ruler out. 4.5 centimeters. Oh no, it's like the circle of the gimbal is maybe a millimeter smaller. They're basically the same size, and they have basically the same throw. I will say the springs on the Boxer, on the AGO1s, feel tighter, and I suppose on the GX12 I could turn the spring tension up, but I haven't. But and the AGO1s just feel beefier, which they are. Whereas the GX12 feels lighter. Maybe putting a heavier stick end on there would make a difference, although I don't know how it would affect the folding. Maybe not at all. Yeah, they're the same, though. All right. TX12 has become a back burner compared to daily drivers. Thank you for $5, Quad City Beria. Sorry, TX16. I haven't used my TX16S for a long time. The Boxer really killed it for me. Off Axis, thank you for 20 Canadian dollars. I have an HD0 1-watt V2, and lately it seems like it doesn't want to send video signal my goggles. Sometimes takes a bit to do so. Wiring is solid and clean. Cold weather makes it not boot up quick? I don't think so. I don't think the cold weather should make it boot up slowly, no. What I would always do is look at the LED on the side of the VTX and see what its status is. And that would give you an idea of what it, like, is the LED taking a long time to come on and go solid? If the LED is solid, it should be transmitting and you should be picking it up. Eventually, over time, things wear out. They get old. They get beat up. So, maybe it's just been crashed one too many times. Tyson Wall, thank you for a $5 super chat. I have a Phoenix UAS MRID installed, but the OSD is not showing any GPS info. It shows it in Betaflight, but not in the OSD. Betaflight has some issues with MSP GPS support, doesn't it? Like you won't get the number of sats. MSP GPS doesn't report numsats. There's a new... So no, I don't have an answer for you there. Betaflight MSP GPS support is flaky. Newbie Drone just released a new remote ID module that I think is worth looking at. It's the Newbie Drone BID GPS module with remote ID. And here's what I think is interesting about it. That's $40. That's so that's impressively inexpensive considering you spent $25 on an M10 GPS module to begin with. Can you bring the product up? I'm clicking. I want to buy this. No, you can't. I'm clicking on it. No, not a link. It's probably my ad blocker. It's breaking it somehow. How about this? So what I think is interesting about this is it's a GPS module with remote ID, just like the Phoenix MRID, but if you look at the pinout, does it use MSP or does it use a UART? That's what I don't know. I don't know. Like, how do you configure it? UART compatibility, seamless. How do you set it up? Come on, Newbie Drone. Oh, give it. You know, it's not going to say. How do you set it up? Just need to know if it's
What's
MSP
up, guys?
or not.
This is Kelvin. Today
Yo,
I'm going
Kelvin,
to
how's it going,
introduce
bro?
you a new product, BID.
You're going to show me how to set it up in Betaflight?
Remote ID with
No, you're not. You're not. All right. I don't have an answer. Installing it. Are you going to show me how to set it up, though? Show me Betaflight. Show me Betaflight. Show me Betaflight. No. Fail. All right. I don't know the answer. It would be nice if this was a standard UART-based GPS, not MSP. So it says works with Betaflight, iNav, RGPilot, PX4. That suggests that it's standard uBlocks protocol, not MSP, in which case it would work correctly. That's what I'm getting at. So, yeah. In fact, you know what? Should I take the video down? Like, there are so many people who are unhappy with the MSP GPS support in Betaflight. Like, is this video misleading? Because it's like, here's how to do it. It shows how to set it up. It shows that it works. But, like, yes, it works, but then there are kind of bugs, and sometimes it doesn't work, and then the OSD doesn't completely work. Yeah, it says full UART compatibility, but what does that mean? Does that mean that that doesn't tell us whether it's uBlocks or MSP. MSP is also over a UART. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. What I should do is I should test out this one and replace this video with that one. I think I'm going to take that video down for now. All right. I'm going to take it down because I don't want to steer people towards a product that isn't working out for them. And I think there's better products out there. Is Dead Cat good for freestyle? Yeah, it's fine. Dead Cat has a little bit of coupling. When you snap roll, you get a little bit of yaw movement. It's just a little bit less symmetrical, but it's fine. You can freestyle Dead Cat. Don't stress about it. You're not a good enough pilot to notice the difference. Color 123, probably. Aber the Ham says, question in the Discord about how to remove the sticky coating from plastic. But I mostly just wanted to say hi and thanks for being you. Thank you, Aber. That's kind of you, man. Let's look for Aber's question in the Discord. I don't see it. Where are you, Aber? Yeah, I don't know where you are, dude. Go away, go away. Oh, well now how do I get rid of this window? There we go. Where did he ask the question? How to remove sticky coating from plastic. Thank you, Bloody.
Put a link in, yeah.
Appreciate that, man. Abraham says, I like the X-Lite form factor, and I feel a lot by my faceplate got all gunky. What's the best way to strip that crap off? Yeah. I mean, I guess you would want to use some kind of solvent, right? Yeah, that plastic coating, it kind of rubs off. I think I would use some kind of solvent. But it would have to be a solvent that got the adhesive but didn't melt the plastic. I don't know. I don't know what the best choice would be. I would be tempted to use acetone. Someone with more experience with plastics than me would know the exact right solvent to use. But I don't have a great suggestion. Yeah. Do you think under 250 gram will be regulated further? That's hard to say. I think that if you bet on more regulations going into the future, you probably, the odds are probably in your favor. I don't know of a specific regulation, but like odds are we'll get more of them. People are saying acetone's a bad idea. I don't know. Acetone will melt the plastic. Okay, don't use acetone. I don't know. Acetone doesn't break down all plastics. People are saying don't use acetone. Try Goo-Gone. Maybe Goo-Gone. Yeah. Mineral oil. Oh, that's a good bet. See? Which antenna do you recommend for a 7-inch long range for the O4 Pro, the stock antenna? Just keep the stock one. Until you prove that it's worse than the alternatives. But I would do the stock one. What's your take on Foxeer, especially their frames? I'm not that impressed with Foxeer frames. They make good cameras. Thank you, Jack Jurgensen, for another $5. Any thoughts on Bamboo TPU for AMS? Have you used it? I think you grossed J83 for $5. Yeah, so here's what you need to know about Bamboo TPU of AMS for AMS. So Bamboo has the multi-material system, the AMS, and it can't feed flex filament. So Bamboo came with this stuff. TPU for AMS, which is TPU you can use in your AMS. Oh, perfect. No. This is not TPU. Well, it is. What you need to know, TPU, let's just do Bamboo TPU. Bamboo TPU is shit. Don't buy it. But Bamboo TPU, 95A hardness. SainSmart TPU, 95A hardness. Excuse me, I have hiccups. Let's look at a Shore hardness scale. And first thing you want to note is that there are different hardness scales. There's the Shore 0, A, and D hardness scale. Okay? So if we look at this scale, can I open image in a new tab? Can I zoom in on this? 95A is where traditional TPU is. A, 95A. This is 95A. This is TPU, okay? The Bamboo TPU for AMS has a Shore hardness of 68D. Where is that on the chart? 68D is here. The Bamboo TPU for AMS is significantly harder than 95A. Okay? Significantly hard. And it has to be. That's why they can push it through the AMS. But the point is that the use case for the Bamboo for AMS, or the TPU for AMS, is different than, it's not going to be as flexible. It's not going to work well for like a GoPro case where you squeeze and stretch the GoPro in and it molds around it. It has uses, but it's not just interchangeable with the TPU that we use because it's such a different hardness. That's the thing. That's the thing you need to know. What you think of when you think of TPU is different than this Bamboo TPU for AMS. Yeah. So it's cool that there's a new filament out there that can let you do different things that TPU wouldn't work for. But it's not just a one-in-one replacement. Turns out you can't just defy physics. Insane FPV, thank you for a $10 super chat. New Boxer Crush with internal ELRS. Updated firmware. ELRS Lua says loading. Model setup is set to internal crossfire, external set to off, sys hardware set to crossfire. My friend, you bought a 4-in-1. You didn't buy an ELRS radio. And what happened is, and again, I could be wrong here, but the odds are this is what happened. Like Sherlock Holmes, right? He plays the odds, right? You bought a 4-in-1 module, 4-in-1 radio. You flashed it. When you flash it, it resets the internal module to crossfire. But that doesn't make the internal module crossfire. It just makes the software be configured wrong. So what people have done is they buy a 4-in-1 radio intentionally. They flash it to update it. And when they're done, it's set to crossfire. And then their internal module doesn't work until they change it back. What you did is you thought you were buying an ELRS radio. You accidentally bought a 4-in-1 radio. Then you flashed it. And now the radio says, oh, yeah, I'm set to crossfire. Let's go, buddy. But your script doesn't load. And your script doesn't load because the radio is not actually a 4-in-1. Not actually an ELRS radio. It's a 4-in-1.
Just to be clear, you don't have to flash it for that. You just go into system hardware and change from CRSF to multi, which is
Correct.
what I think he did, because he says sys hardware. So what I would say
he says
is,
he updated the firmware. Wait, which firmware did he update?
He just says sys hardware set to CRSF. You see.
But which firmware did he update? The ELRS firmware or the EdgeTX firmware? If he updated the ELRS firmware, then he has an ELRS radio, is my point. No?
My thought would be you can confirm if you switch to multi and then go into internal and it will show you a version number if you're on multi.
Correct. But what I'm, and I don't know if we're saying, yes, you can just change it to multi and then go to radio model settings and go to internal module and it'll show you, it'll either say no telemetry if you have an ELRS radio or it'll show you the version number if you don't. My point is when you flash EdgeTX, it reverts that setting. That's what I'm saying. The sys hardware, it reverts that setting to crossfire when you flash it. He says Boxer Crush ELRS only. Is the Boxer Crush ELRS only? That would be a, you're right. Boxer Crush is ELRS only. Okay. Well, damn.
I mean, you bricked the firmware on the update, right?
He flashed. He flashed EdgeTX.
Do we know that?
EdgeTX. He said he flashed EdgeTX. Yes. So the radio's not pricked, and he didn't flash the ExpressLRS firmware. Oh.
I mean, those are all the things that are required.
Correct. Al MacFPV says delete the Lua script and reinstall it. Worth trying? It's worth trying. Those are the things that are required, though. Number one, that you have an ELRS module in your radio. Number two, that sys hardware is set to ELRS. And number three, that internal module is set to ELRS. That's it. Do this. Insane FPV, do this. Go to sys hardware and set it to multi-protocol. And then go to internal module and set it to anything. Set it to multi-protocol. And see if you get a version number from the internal module. Like, did you accidentally not buy the Boxer Crush? You bought the standard Boxer? I don't know. All right. Do you like building or flying more, Quad City Bay Area? Well, I'll tell you which one makes me cuss more often, and it's building. So I guess I like flying more. But I spend more time building. 4S Lime says, I flashed a digital Betaflight for the O4 Pro, but the OSD tab is showing a really wide layout. How can I make it show the full height of the screen in the OSD to use the full height? 4S Lime, what you need is these. You need this. There is an option. Here it is. For the O3, and actually Walk Snail as well, but for the O3, you need these lines in the CLI. This sets the dimensions of the OSD canvas correct for the O3 and the O4 and Walk Snail. They're all the same. Put these lines in the CLI and it will fix your canvas. I believe that's what you need. All right, that's 4 Slime. Thank you for 8 Australian dollars. Matty Dub says, I finished my first build. 1S whoop. Voltage display on my Goggles X doesn't match the Betaflight OSD voltage. Can I calibrate the goggle display voltage? Do you mean your Betaflight OSD? No. No, you can't calibrate the Goggles X. Just use the Betaflight OSD. I don't think there's any way to calibrate the goggles, though. Just use the Betaflight OSD. I don't know why they wouldn't be the same, though. That's weird. Like, they're coming from the same place, right? No, that's not true. The Walksnail VTX shows its own supply voltage. So might be what's happening is... No, I'm not going to speculate. No, but the short answer is no. Just use the Betaflight OSD, and that's what I recommend. And that catches us up on the Super Chats. I'm flying tonight, Blunty. I'm cooking through the questions. That was only a half hour spent on the Super Chats.
Yeah, we're doing good.
Yeah, answering questions. What do you, Eric Toft, what do you mean the VRX won't display voltage? The goggles show the show the supply voltage for the VTX, don't they? I'm not, in the lower left. I'm really sure they do. Oh, he says yes. Okay, great. Glad we agree. Alrighty. How will DJI solve or answer the O4 Pro UFL disconnect problem? What O4 disconnect problem? Oh, Eric is saying the Betaflight might be miscalibrated. Yeah, that's worth checking. You know, who's right? So you could check with a multimeter and see whether Betaflight is miscalibrated. And in the power and battery tab, you can change the VBAT scale to recalibrate the voltage if you want to. You can't calibrate the goggles, but you can calibrate Betaflight. Good point. What O4 UFL problem? Well, Mads Tech just released a video.
There is what I believe to be a growing issue with DJI O4, and specifically the antenna UFL connections getting ripped off. Now, we started to see early reports of this when it released, but I'm getting more and more people contacting me and seeing more and more posts online that in a this has happened to you as well, and really just discuss what this problem is all about. Now, this is just one of a number of posts that I've seen around this issue. Nate has very kindly given me permission to talk about his image in this video here today. Nate also gave me permission to use his image in the thumbnail on this video as well. He has his own YouTube channel.
By the way, Madstech didn't give me permission to play this on his live stream, and I anticipate a copy strike. And to which I say, bring it! Bring it, Ian! I don't respect the Welsh, and I don't respect the Welsh copyright. Let's go. So anyway, Ian's theory is that this this metal shield here soaks up so much heat from the circuit board that this UFL connector doesn't get soldered down securely. I don't know if that's Ian's theory. That's in the comment, actually. Maybe it's this comment. I think Mr. Lydukas. No. No, yeah, he proposes that. Why are they not secured with a bar or something like they usually are? That's the real question. I don't know. They always have been. Yeah, so what is DJI going to do about it? They're going to warranty the damaged units, and they're going to fix their process to avoid this. That's what I expect. They are like, it's not like DJI to make a manufacturing error like this. Their manufacturing is very good. In fact, there's a comment where someone said something like, so much for the DJI reliability that all the fanboys tout. And I'm like, well, I mean, that's just a fact. The fact is that historically, DJI Air units have been very durable. The Vista was almost indestructible. The O3, likewise. So when you say DJI has a history of making extremely durable hardware, that's like a fact. That's not like a promise that the O4 will also be just as durable. Like, no one can predict the future, but if you're going to try to predict the future, then you do based on past history. I think that this will be seen as a growing pain and will be resolved very quickly, because unlike some manufacturers, DJI isn't the kind to just pretend this doesn't happen. I've already heard of people getting this warranted and getting a new air unit, and they will home in on it and get it fixed. Would be my expectation, but we'll see. We'll see. What's the micro USB type from the Race Day Quads JBF7 V1? I have no idea. Never mind that it's the V1. I couldn't even... Thank you for using my extremely old flight controller. I have no idea. Oh, hey, speaking of which, guess what? Guess what, guys? The first update in my refresh of my website that has been delayed for months and now finally begun. The first page has been rolled out. The freestyle page has been completely updated. Now, there are some parts of it that haven't changed. Like the Nazgul Eco is still there, but it's been completely refreshed. I've gone through, added new products. And I'm happy to say, and I'm just going to keep rolling. I'm going to keep rolling in. I got to see. I already know I need to add the Zingy Pro motors. I don't have the Zingy Pro motors. They need to be there. I got to add those, right? So I'm already making notes for what I need to do to improve it. But yeah, I'm very happy to say that I was able to roll that page out. God, I got to really... I think I'm going to do the digital video page next, because it still has the V2 goggles and it doesn't have the O4, and that's kind of a glaring oversight. So, one step at a time. And to keep myself accountable, I was just like, fine, I'll put it right there on the front page. I'm going to put updates right on the front page. So hopefully that'll help keep me motivated. Did I end up using a new web developer? I did. I'm very, very pleased that I got exactly what I wanted. So, hang on. The guy's name is Steve Morton. Steve Morton. And he reached out to me. And like, as a reply to a job interview goes, it doesn't get better than this. Because he said, "Hi, here's who I am. What you want is very easy. Here's how I would do it." Right? And I was like, "That's it. You got it. You got the exact thing I want, and you told me exactly how you would do it in a way that I can understand." And the beauty is that it's built into what I want. It's like the Ruby slippers. It was built into WordPress the whole time. And all this time I was like paying somebody to try to develop a custom backend plugin database PHP bullshit, and he wasn't doing it, and I wasted so much time and money. And finally, I whined about it on a live stream enough that good old Steve Morton, thank you, Steve, good old Steve Morton came out of the woodwork and said, "I know how to do what you want." It's amazing. It's amazing. And Steve, so far, has very generously donated his time. Because, I don't know, he's thankful for the support I've given him over the years. And I said to him, "Steve, I'm just going to keep working you like a dog and asking you for things. And as soon as you decide that it's time to start charging me money for your services, you just let me know. Because you've already done so much more than anyone else I tried to get help with from this." So thank you, Steve. And to everybody else, I got like 15 responses the first time I whined about this. And I responded to them individually. To anybody else who it's just the reply from Steve was exactly what I wanted and told me that I didn't actually have to do a whole bunch of custom work. And I was like, well, that's the answer I wanted to hear. And so he went to the top of the list and he delivered. So thank you for that. Thanks for asking. Oh, let's see here. Is it worth direct soldering motor wires on 2S whoops? Yes. The connectors on those little whoops, they become unreliable over time, and they have a little bit more resistance, so you lose some power. Yes, it's 100% worth doing. Anything I should know before I go solder on my first ever drone without any experience after watching your soldering video? Of course. Dude B22, definitely watch my soldering video and practice on a solder practice board until you are convinced that you have got, good results, because nothing's sadder than blowing up a $60 or $80 flight controller because you soldered on it badly. What makes motors throttle up and run away and not turn off? If your props are off, it's normal. It is a feedback loop between the flight controller and the motors. What happens is you arm the quad, it has no props. The flight controller goes, we need to tilt a little bit to the left. The flight controller tries to tilt a little bit to the left, but since there are no props, nothing happens. So the flight controller goes, damn, I got to push a little harder. And that feedback loop continues, the flight controller making the motor spin faster and faster, and nothing happening until the motors max out. It's completely normal. And every single person in the world of FPV has had this exact same question, which is why I kind of am rolling my eyes a little bit, because this is the 5,000th time I've answered this question. But that's cool. That's like, the 5,000th time you play the hit song that made you popular. Don't fucking roll your eyes. Just be thankful that you got popular, right? So I'm glad that I'm the one you're asking this question to. But it is a very common experience. it is probably the case that if you take your quadcopter out, you put props on it, you arm it, it probably will hover just fine. However, you might have screwed something up. Like if you've screwed something up, like a motor direction or something, or your flight controller alignment, then it'll flip out, right? So, but probably, I can tell you that quadcopters with nothing wrong with them, the motors do that if the props are off. Completely normal. How real is the threat of DJI being banned in the U.S.? Ian Kuchenbrod. I think it's very real. I think that there have been bills that seriously proposed banning it or tariffing it or doing various things to limit access of DJI to the market. Currently, I believe there is a deadline, and basically, if nothing happens before that, which I think the deadline is the end of 2025. Sorry, I don't have a lot of details. And if nothing happens by the end of 2025, DJI will be banned. So, like, I don't know. What's the current state of the DJI ban? Your guide to October 2024. That's a while back, though. Yeah, it's part of the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act. That's it. Yeah, here we go. I got it. So the bills that were going to ban DJI, so far nothing's come of them, but the National Defense Authorization Act has been passed. It did not contain the Countering CCP Drones Act that would have blocked imports of DJI products, but it kicked off a one-year countdown until the products are automatically banned. And basically what it says is that an appropriate national security agency has to publicly declare that DJI does not pose an unacceptable risk to the national security of the United States. So think about that. Who is a national security agency? Well, how about the NSA? Their name is literally the National Security Agency, right? Yep, National Security Agency. Okay. So, hey, NSA, do we want to say that DJI does not pose a risk to the security of the U.S.? Well, it seems like if we said that and then something bad happened, we would get hung out to dry. Okay, well, what happens if we just don't say anything at all? Well, DJI gets banned. Oh, that doesn't seem that bad. I think I won't say that. Okay, national security agencies. What's another one? Can you see that no government agency is going to put their own ass on the line by saying, I personally vouch that DJI does not pose a risk to the security of the United States? Yep. What's that? They were caught spying? What's that? Something bad happened? Oh, wow. Boy, don't I have egg on my face. So nobody's going to do that. And then at the end of the year, it's going to be banned. Or, like, I don't know. That seems like the likely outcome. We'll see. But there's hope. Because there's always the wild card. The wild card.
To be clear, Manuel in chat says, I mean, if they ban, they have to explain why, and any reason would technically apply for all FPV drones. No, that is not what's happening. The NDAA has written it, such as they have to look, and if they don't look, or if they fail to complete the looking, then it's banned. There's no reason for the ban. The reason is that they didn't look, and we don't know. Right. So now they're going to ban them. That's
they are already de facto banned. Unless somebody steps up and says they're safe to use.
Also, my understanding of the situation is that these will be added to the covered lists, and the covered list would mean that the FCC, well, this will be like we talked about before with the other bill, where the FCC would then stop approving any new DJI products. So nothing new from DJI would be able to be manufactured and imported to the United States because it wouldn't be able to legally be sold to an end consumer because it wouldn't have Part 15 certification. That's the idea.
Yep. So, but the wild card is that we don't live in a world anymore where we can predict what the government's going to do. You never know. Because you may recall, there was all this talk about the TikTok ban. Oh, TikTok ban. And then suddenly, one day, somebody woke up and decided, you know what, I like TikTok, actually. TikTok's pretty cool. TikTok's great. I'm still going to ban TikTok unless they give us $500 billion. But I don't think I'm going to ban TikTok today. Whoop. We live in a world where just one day there's a ban, next day there's no ban. One day there's a tariff, next day there's no tariff. So, like, could the president just be like, you know what? Nah, we're not doing the DJI ban anymore. And somebody will be like, well, that's not legal. And he'll be like, I do what I want. You remember that episode of South Park? And Cartman's walking around going, I do what I want. I don't know, I'm having flashbacks to that lately. So, yeah, who knows? But that's the state of the DJI ban. Just flashed all my BL Heli S ESCs to Blue Jay. Why wouldn't I want to do this? You absolutely want to do it. 100%. Bidirectional D-shot is mandatory. Absolutely do it. Here's the thing. Here's the other thing. Somebody said we need to get Trump into FPV. Yeah, but would that make him not ban DJI? Because Don Jr. is on the board of advisors for Red Cat. Now, I don't know what that means in the real world. But if Don Jr. is on the board of advisors for Red Cat, does that mean Don Jr. is more likely to want to ban DJI or not ban DJI? If DJI gets banned, is that better or worse for Red Cat? So, if you're concerned about a DJI ban specifically, yeah. Is it Unusual Machines? I apologize. Is it Unusual Machines or is it Red Cat? I think it's Red Cat. I could be wrong. Let me check. You are correct. It's Unusual Machines. Yes, it's not Red Cat. It's Unusual Machines. I apologize. I got that wrong. Emmanuel Goldstein says, what are the top factors that would affect range on an analog VTX? Assuming 1 watt power, I can't get more than 300 yards line of sight. That ain't right. Something's effed up. First of all, make sure your VTX is actually at 1 watt. Sometimes, like, you'll set 1 watt in the Betaflake OSD, but there's a disconnect and the VTX isn't actually at 1 watt. Like, if your VTX table is messed up, then you may not get the output power you think you're getting. So make sure your look at your VTX LEDs and make sure they indicate 1 watt, because the LEDs will always indicate the true output power the VTX is at. Make sure your UFL cable, your coaxial cable is not damaged. Make sure it's plugged in. It's not kinked. It's not damaged in some way. Make sure the antenna on the drone is not damaged. The simplest thing to do is just to replace the pigtail cable and the antenna with a brand new one. That's, it's $20. It's worth doing. You mentioned
power. You might have accidentally wired it to like 5 volt or something.
Most VTX today want VBAT, 7 volts to 26 volts. If you accidentally wired it to 5 volts, then it might work but not make its full power valid. Those are some things you can check. But you should get way more than 300 yards off of 1 watt. You should get, like, I would say 2 or 3 kilometers without trying too hard off a basic patch antenna. If you only got, like, you know, a kilometer, that's not that great. The other thing I would say is this. Listen, if you're not an experienced analog pilot, you may start to see breakup and go, oh, well, that's it. That's the edge of my range. And if you're going to fly analog, you have to know how to push through that. So I would say get a bird that has return to home, so you don't lose it if you lose video, and practice flying away from yourself. Like, the video will start to break up and you'll be like, oh, maybe I should turn around. Keep flying. And then you'll be like, oh, actually, that's still pretty usable. And you'll get another 500 meters. And you'll be like, oh, okay, I can push through that. Like, if you're going to fly analog, then you have to be able to push through a little bit of noise. Will hardware skyrocket in price in the near future? If there's tariffs, yeah, absolutely. I don't know what to tell you. That's how tariffs work. Tariffs make things more expensive in the country that applies the tariffs. And again, I'm sort of encroaching on my no politics policy. So, but politics infringe on the FPV hobby, so excuse me. I'm going to try and toe that line carefully without sort of setting off a firestorm in the comments. But the way that tariffs work is the USA applies a tariff. You, the consumer, pay the tariff.
To be clear, the importer pays the tariff.
Okay, to be clear, the importer pays the tariff. But then they don't go, well, shit, I guess I just don't make any money today. They pass it on to you. Obviously. And there's no incentive for them not to do that. Because, like, if one importer ate the tariff and one importer passed on the tariff, then, oh, well, one guy's got lower prices. But they all just go, we're all obviously going to pass the tariff on, right, guys? And then they all do it. And their price all goes up together. And now they're just competing at a higher price point and making the same amount of money. And the government is getting the tariff. So thank goodness nobody raised any taxes on the middle class or the lower class. They just tariffed them. That's how tariffs work. Tariffs make imported things more expensive for you. China doesn't pay the tariffs. I want to beat my head against a wall when I hear people misunderstanding how tariffs work. Mexico doesn't pay the tariffs. Canada does. You pay the tariffs. The importer pays the tariffs, and then they pass them on to you. So, the only thing tariffs are good for, and it's debatable whether they're even good for this, is protecting domestic manufacturing against foreign manufacturing. But when there is no domestic source for a thing, all tariffs do is raise prices. Because the consumer has no alternative. And tariffs also raise prices from domestic manufacturers. Because the government applies a tariff and the imported thing goes up in price. And all the domestic manufacturers go, we're going to raise our prices too, right, guys? Just everybody raises their prices. I'm not saying that I'm not an economist. I'm not an expert on tariffs, but I apparently know more about tariffs than like a huge percentage of the public. And I'm sure there are situations where tariffs are good, but you say it's the worst case scenario, Michael Jones, but we saw it happen in 2018, whatever, when there were tariffs on all steel and lumber and things. We saw it happen. So, like, anyway. Yeah. Yeah, you know what happened? You know what happened? Well, I don't remember the year. It was 2018 or something. I don't remember when the tariffs were. China went, "Oh, you mean you guys were willing to pay 25% more this whole time?" So China's charging $10 for a product. A tariff goes through, and it's a 25% uptick, and Americans just keep fucking buying the product because we don't give a shit about $2.50. And China goes, "Oh, damn, we've been undercharging you dumbasses this whole time. Wow, no idea." And then the government goes, "Hey, guys, maybe we should get rid of this tariff." And China goes, "Great. We don't care. We're not like we're going to lower our prices." So that's one effect of tariffs is prices go up, demand stays the same, suppliers realize that you would have paid more anyway, and then the prices just stay high. Yeah, prices are going to go up. That's the takeaway. Shit's gonna cost more. Absolutely. China does pay the tariff by reducing price to compete, but they don't reduce prices. That doesn't match reality.
That's incorrect.
They don't do that. Okay, I hear you.
Let's move on.
All right, let's get some super chats. They didn't do that. That's hype. I'm talking about what actually happened, and you're talking about what might happen. So, have you heard about H7 based radios? Says Richard Baggins. Thank you for $2. No. I mean, you got to have a processor in the radio. I guess it could be an H7. I have not heard about those. What's an H7 based radio? Has anybody got an example? The code was merged into EdgeTX. So EdgeTX has support for H7 processors in the radio. I will say some of the Lua scripts stress the processor in some of the radios. Most radios are F4. I guess I would ask, what's the advantage of the H7 based radios? Like, what do we get out of that? Is EdgeTX getting so complicated it needs a faster processor? Joe Mirabella, thank you for a $5 super chat. Zorro radio telemetry screen shows not okay with GPS flashing 6+ sats locked. FM is wait in the sensor data. I can activate, but it never goes to ready. Joe, I'm not tracking everything. I'm not tracking everything that you're talking about, Joe. Can I think that the super chat is not powerful enough to handle your question, and I think that you should email me and we could discuss this question with some photos and so forth. Because I'm not following your question. I have a Zorro with Lewis. Oh, you have the iNav Lua script. Oh, okay. You're running Betaflight. Well, you have the iNav Lua script and you're running Betaflight. I can see it. I can see the beginnings of a problem. Yeah, so Joe Mirabella, this is why the live stream isn't the best place to troubleshoot a complicated problem like this, because in the time it takes you to type the rest of your question, the whole chat is just sitting here waiting. Flight mode is always wait in the sensor data. I actually don't think I have an answer for you, Joe. Don't apologize, Joe. Now I feel bad. Don't apologize. What I'm saying is you should email me and we could talk about this. One thing I will say, Joe, delete your telemetry sensors. If you switched from iNav to Betaflight on the same model, delete your telemetry sensors and discover new sensors, because iNav and Betaflight have different telemetry sensors, and that could be your problem. Okay? You should have a different model in your radio for Betaflight versus iNav. And when you switch that model, when you make that model, discover new sensors so that you get the iNav sensors and the Betaflight sensors. That could be it. Otherwise, just email me, and we'll try and dig into it. Is DJI perfect and Walksnail is hit? No. DJI is not perfect. I would never say that. Why do pro pilots not use FPV camera mix? Thank you, Drone Arcaria. Because they know how to fly. Because they know how to fly. You just do it with your fingers. FPV camera mix compensates for the up tilt of the camera, but if you're an experienced pilot, you fly with different up tilts. You fly with more up tilt, you fly with less up tilt, and you just learn. It's like saying, why when a driver gets out of a car and gets into a truck, does he not need a special piece of software to make the brakes respond the same in the truck that they do in the car or something? You just drive the car. You just fly the drone. That's why the pilots don't do it. They don't need to.
Okay, quick aside.
Yeah.
Let's just be in pretend world. Brand new pilot, never flown before, wants to have the easiest flight time. Would it, in theory, be better for them to always run camera angle mix forever? Because it's just easier? You just yaw and you don't have to mix?
No, because here's why.
Okay.
That's a good question. So what camera angle mix does is if I'm flat, okay, and I put just yaw in, I'll turn, and the horizon will stay flat. If I'm pitched forward and I put just yaw in, I will turn like this, okay? I will not turn like that. To turn flat with up tilt requires both roll and yaw together, okay? So if I am tilted forward 30 degrees, and I put in 30 degrees of FPV angle mix, then when I put yaw in, I will turn like this. The flight controller will automatically put in the right amount of roll, and I could just turn with pure yaw. Oh, that sounds really good. Why don't I do that? Well, here's the thing. Let's say I'm pitched forward like this to just 15 degrees, and I'm going slowly. Oh, well, now I have to mix in some roll. Well, let's say I want to go fast, so now I pitch forward. And I'm at 45 degrees. Oh, now I have to put some roll in. Okay? So my point is, camera angle mix does not get rid of the need to use yaw and roll to coordinate your turns. There is only ever one pitch angle at which you can turn with only the yaw stick. By default, that is 0 degrees pitch, and I turn with only the yaw stick. If I use FPV angle mix or up tilt composite, whatever you want to call it, I can make that 0 position now be any angle I want. But anytime I'm pitched at any other angle, I still have to use yaw and roll to coordinate. So you always have to do it. Now, here's where I think FPV angle mix can be useful. Let's say I'm going to fly at a ridiculously high up tilt, like 45, 50, 60 degrees up tilt. Once you pass 45 degrees up tilt, yaw and roll actually reverse themselves. Yaw is now roll and roll is now yaw. And if you're an experienced pilot, you can compensate for that, but it can be a little disorienting. And I could see putting in like 20 degrees of FPV angle mix, which will subtract out 20 degrees of up tilt and take you from like 55 degrees down to a more manageable 35 degrees, so it feels more like what you're used to. But the reality is that top pilots just learn to fly through experience, and ultimately that's what you will end up doing too. So
okay,
if you're
last question,
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, we don't spend that long on this, but if you know how these questions are, if you let's say you set camera angle mix, and even though the fact that if I'm at 20, right, I'm on, and if I go down by 5 or up by 5, right, I have that much mix that I have to do with the yaw or with the roll, right? Okay, but doesn't that mean that now when I change angles, it's always the same offset or very similar offset, so I don't feel different when I change angles, right?
What do you mean? What do you mean? I'm not following. What do you mean by change angles, when I change angles?
Like, let's say I change my camera up to 35 from 20, but then I change my camera angle mix to 35 from 20. So now the relative
Yes,
adding a roll.
It's going to feel.
Is
That's
the
what it can
same,
do.
right?
That's what it can do.
Yeah.
So what FPV angle mix can do is it can make all your angles feel like the one you're used to. So let's say I'm used to 20 degrees. My muscle memory is for 20 degrees, and I tilt to 35. If I then put in 15 degrees of angle mix, it'll make it feel like 20 again. Right? But
There's very little use for that, right? Like
because
you're
like
rarely changing angles.
Like
and,
every time, every time I like bump the because I can't tell you how many times I've been like, I want to go a little faster. Doink. Okay, now I'm ready to haul ass. That's a little too much. Like I'm adjusting my camera angle all the time, based on how I want to fly. So like I don't want to go in my flight controller and adjust that number every time.
What we need is a camera that automatically reports back the angle based on a gyro in the camera.
No, what we need is people to learn to fly better.
Okay.
Okay. Color123, thank you for a $5 super chat. I have the QAV Pro Nano by Lumineer. Is it any good for a third drone? Or what do you recommend for tight quarters flying? Money's not a problem, enlighten me. The QAV Pro Nano. This is a weird Cinewhoop. This is like, who makes Cinewhoops like this anymore? Right? Carbon frame Cinewhoop in 2025? It's the ultimate sub 250 gram nano quad. I don't know. Like, I don't see anybody. I'm sure they've got a pro pilot or two on their in their stable who flies it, but like, I thought everybody moved away from carbon fiber frame Cinewhoops a long time ago. Like, if you want a sub 250 gram, right? How about that? I think it's going to be lighter. So I don't know. It seems like this is, people have moved away from this style of frame. That's what I would say about that. Hey JB, I'm very new to the FPV world. I bought an Express receiver and transmitter. This is still work in conjunction with the DJI U4 Pro. Thank you for $5, Wicked Spoke. Yes, it will. It will work in conjunction with the U4 Pro. The U4 is going to be your video link. Express LRS is going to be your control link, and they are separate. Julian, thank you for €5. Which frame should I get for a 7-inch long range? Ideally a compact one. For 7-inch long range, I like the Gepard C Mark V 7-inch is a choice. That's fairly compact. That's where I would have you look at. Thank you, Force Lime, for letting me know that the canvas settings fixed the issue. Fantastic. Anmar Alam, thank you for a $10 super chat. How do you know whether long-term you'll like freestyle flying or more long-range flying? I'm stuck between upgrading to the Evoke F5, F6, or something even bigger. Man, I'll tell you what, if you're not sure you like freestyle, get in the simulator, do freestyle in the simulator. Like, you ever see those videos where the skateboarder is trying to do a trick and he launches himself off the stairs, blah, and he spins around and blah, he just explodes on the ground, and he gets up and he launches himself, and this dude is just launching himself off the stairs, smashing his body into the ground repeatedly until finally, bam, he lands the trick. The crowd goes wild. Right? That guy loves skateboarding. Right? He must. So, like, if you get in the simulator and you're, like, trying to do tricks, and you're like, I gotta get this trick. Oh, look at this freestyle. Watch some freestyle videos. When you watch freestyle videos, do you like salivate and go, oh, wow, I gotta learn how to do that? Well, then you love freestyle. And if you don't feel like a twinge of that, if you're not already kind of spending a half hour in the sim trying to figure out how to do some trick you saw some dude do, maybe you don't love freestyle. You can't do long range in the simulator. It's not the same. But you can certainly figure out if you love freestyle. Thank you, Michael Jones, for a $5 super chat. Michael Jones says, Cinewhoops are amazing now that the 04 is out and we don't have to run an action cam. I mean, you're not wrong. A lot of people stopped running an action cam with the 03, but the 04 is definitely better. Thank you, Joe Mirabella, for a $5 super chat. Absolutely, Joe. And Joe, I'm serious. If you want to dig into that question, email me. It's just the back and forth on the chat is a little tricky. I wasn't trying to blow you off, and you certainly didn't have to apologize. You didn't do anything wrong. Are EV800Ds still good for starting out? Yes. Yep. $100. The Fat Shark Echo is the other one I would have you look at. The EV800DM is diversity. The Echo is not. But the Echo is probably better build quality because Fat Shark makes solid hardware. But look at the Fat Shark Echo and the EV800DM. Not the D, but the DM. So... Proud Owen 999 says, I'm getting into racing. I want to build a race quad. Should I start with a 5-inch or something smaller like the Tiny Trainer? So Owen, build the Tiny Trainer if you want to race Tiny Trainer races, which are super fun. But if you want to race 5-inch races, build a 5-inch. So like if you're getting into racing, then you plan to go to a race and you plan to race with other people. That's kind of the point of racing. And so you would build the kind of quadcopter that matches the kind of racing you intend to do. Joe Mirabella says, running iNav Lewis scripts with Betaflight. No wonder it didn't work. I downloaded the Betaflight telemetry scripts and now it's working. Woo! Well, Joe, sometimes all you have to do is ask someone else the question and then you figure out the answer. So credit to you for that. How do you keep DJI recording rolling after disarm? Thank you for a $10 super chat, Travis Eastman. Travis, there's a setting which is auto record. I'm blanking on the exact menu location it's at, so apologies for that. But the setting that auto starts recording also auto stops recording. Turn that setting off. But then you have to remember to start recording every time you fly. But then it'll keep recording after you stop flying. Clayton Nelson says, I just built a 13-inch. I'm hearing metallic rattle as it flies. I sent you a video over email if that helps. Well, I guess, yeah, go ahead, send it over email. Let's see if Clayton has already done it. I got a question from Scott Harper, marked question for live. It's a terrible way to send me a question for a live stream. The chances are that I wasn't going to see it at all. But since I did, Scott Harper asks, is there a way to use ExpressLRS to control a quadcopter from a PC? I feel like the latency would be unacceptable. So... it seems like, I mean, I can't find what I'm looking for. The answer is yes. You would have to invent it, though. Like, you would need to connect. Where is that? Where's that? Ah, here it is. Great. So this is... okay. This is a thing called a squid stick. And it is a USB device with an ExpressLRS receiver on it. And it's an example of integrating ExpressLRS with the computer. Now, this is designed to, this is the receiver end, right? But the point is that integration of ExpressLRS and computers is being done. You would need to connect like the USB of the module to your computer and then somehow communicate to the module what you want it to send to the receiver. And I don't know if there's an established protocol for doing that. I think there isn't.
Captain Brian in the chat says someone has a Python script for connecting to ELRS transmitter and setting the joystick position, but I can't remember the name. So it does sound like something exists, like a program to do this over USB.
Oh, that's good to know. Yeah. All right. I still don't see a message from Clayton Nelson in my email. Clayton should have sent it. We're going to move on. Thank you for the donation, Clayton. Caught up on the super chats. We got just about 15 minutes left in the stream. You can connect ExpressLRS to the PC with an FTDI adapter and send raw crossfire data. Yeah. Is that guy, Blenty, is that guy still trolling for a free quadcopter? The guy timed out?
Yeah.
No. All right. I'm just going to ban him. Like, I timed him out. He didn't get the message. Now he's just gone. Like, I mean, no hard feelings, dude. Maybe some hard feelings. But you can't just come into the chat and be like, hey, can I have a free quadcopter? We'd all like a free quadcopter. That's why I became a YouTuber. I like free quadcopters. People just send them to me now. I feel like that conversation didn't go how I meant it to go. You can't just spam the chat. Point is, you can't just spam the chat. Like, give me a break. I'm in rare form tonight. Oh, yeah, you want a free quadcopter. I got a bunch of them. You can't have one. And you're banned from my chat for even asking. Suck it! Oh, man. That's mean. That's mean. Oh, wow. What a world. The desire to play some kind of Squid Game with him now. You know, you wake up in a room, a puppet says, "So you want a free quadcopter, do you?" Okay.
Link is in the Discord. Brian linked the GitHub project.
Oh, sweet. Here's the GitHub project for the dude who wants to control ExpressLRS. Thank you, Bri. With a computer. It's CAC. Oh, is this Limon? Is this Limon? No? CAC. That's interesting. CAC/ELRS joystick control. It's a Python script that lets you use joysticks to control a drone using any device that identifies as a gamepad when connected to a computer over USB. That's pretty cool. It just pretends to be a radar. That's very cool. That's interesting. Hey, Limon. Ivan Efimov, creator of the CAC firmware. I was at a race last weekend, and I got two requests, and I could just message Limon, but I didn't think of it until this moment. and then I just like to like shout at people over the live stream because it gets more attention. So you guys know that there's this CAC firmware, and one of the things it does is that when you it's a specific fork of Betaflight made for racing, made by Ivan Efimov. A lot of racers run it. And one of the things it does is that when you're at full throttle, instead of 100% as the throttle, it says CAC, K-A-A-C-K. I think it comes from Min Chan Kim. 2 requests, Limon. Number 1, I want it to, if you're at less than like 20% throttle, because like I was flying around and I was like trying to push, and I couldn't go faster, and I was like, I gotta push, I gotta get my throttle up. Pick a throttle position, and if you're at less than that throttle position, I want it to say, hurry up! Get it? Yeah? So like you're racing, and you're like, you know, you're going too slow. Whatever throttle position you think is realistic. I want it to say like, hurry up, or something. And then, and this idea came from one of the other guys at the race. Instead of going to 100% instead of saying CAC when you go to 100%, what I want it to do is, when you hit 90%, it says CAC. And then as you go from 90 to 100%, you get more A's. So it goes CAC. Isn't that good? Okay. Somebody get him that message. Oh, he's here! Limon! Yes, see? I knew it! Instead of just messaging him, I just shout into the ether, and people hear me. I want like a hurry up message. So when you're racing and you're too slow, it's like, you know, you suck. And then I want it to go CAC. It's good. Anyway. Have you considered using your influence to see if the FAA can revisit FPV regulations? Yeah, the FAA gives a shit about me. No, I have not considered that, and it wouldn't work. The FAA doesn't give a shit about me. Clayton Nelson, thank you for another $10. He sent me the video. I appreciate your donations. We're not going to have any actual useful information. We're going to listen to this rattling, and it's not going to be in any way informative. We're just going to go, oh, and then that's going to be it. But maybe I shouldn't. That's not metal rattling. That's the motors. That's not rattling metal. That's the motors. You have a problem with your maybe your gyro. That's not a metal rattling, though. That's like some kind of resonance in the motors, is my opinion. Oh, UAV Tech is here too. Oh my God, everybody's here. Almax says put a static notch filter between 100 and 200 hertz. Yeah, you've got like a frequency problem. You've got a gyro or a filtering problem, or maybe your motor PWM frequency. That's a gyro problem though. Oh my God, Quick Flash is here too. All the coders are here. Quick, make your code requests. Man, it's like old times. Yeah. UAV Tech says high frequency D term hitting the motors. Yep. That was exactly what I was thinking. Like you have maybe your filters are too aggressive. You need more filtering. Did you load a preset? The preset's not quite right. Yeah, that's a filter or PID issue, not metal. So what I would say is, the way I'm going to justify your super chats is, you think it's a metal rattle. It is not a metal rattle. That's like a resonance problem coming from the motors, and I think you should play with your filters and filter more. If you have black box, you could actually find the exact frequency of the resonance. Make sure all your screws are tight. Trent Nielsen, thank you for $2 Australian. What's your favorite current 75mm 04 Tiny Whoop? I'm reserving judgment until I see more of them. I'm reserving judgment. Lamone, you should be blue, dude. You should be blue. I'll make you a moderator so you show up as blue and I can see your messages easier. Aaron Ciotti is going to be streaming in just about 5 minutes when I go to bed. So, check out his live stream when you're done here. We are caught up on the Super Chats. That's nice. And I want to let you guys know we will be back next weekend. We'll be doing 2 weekends in a row. Somebody asked, well, how often are Bardwell's live streams? Is it once a month now? I do have some extended absences, but we're going to be doing it next weekend as well. So, yeah, 2 weeks in a row. I know. Excuse me. Let's see here. Oh, we got a lot of questions. How many packs do you fly a day, Joe? It is a fraction less than 1, I'll tell you that, per day. Render wants to know my opinion on 5-inch props. I think 5.1 inch is widely felt to be the sweet spot for the 5-inch class these days. Yeah. What about cruising as a category of drone flying? Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of motivation to share cruising style flights. I mean, I guess in theory, like a lot of cinematic flights are cruising. You know, maybe there's a genre there that you can jump into, though. Show me an example of what a cruising video would look like. Cruising means something different in Europe. No comment. Well, guys, if I didn't get to your question, feel free to email me. jb@joshuabardwell.com is my email address. We never get to all the questions on the live stream, and that's just because there isn't enough time in the world for all the questions we get. Please don't take it personally if I didn't answer yours. Just email me, jb@joshuabardwell.com, and I will get to you as quickly as I can. Typically clear my inbox at least once a day. But I'm going to get out of here for tonight. Let Ciotti do his stream, and I will see you next Sunday. Good night, everybody. Ooh, hang on. Ooh, that's a good question. Adventure printing gets one in under the wire. As a beginner, is it better to do 1 to 2 lipos every day or an entire day? Like once a week? That's tough. If you said 5 lipos a day, I'd say 5 lipos a day. But if you're only getting 1 to 2 lipos a day, I don't think you're really even quite getting warmed up. And I would say an entire day where you really get warmed up and get to try stuff out. But in general, consistent practice is better than just burning yourself out one weekend. Skydozer disagrees. Well, yeah. All right. That's going to do it. Have a great stream, Ciotti. Good night, everybody.